Hello everyone, this is Niladri. Welcome to Agile Digest videos. Today we'll learn how to configure Kanban board in Jira. And you know Jira is one of the most popular ALM tool in the industry with lots of flexibility and customization options, and you can actually customize based as per your need. Before we begin, I'll suggest if you are new to Kanban, please visit our previous video. You can actually come to YouTube and search the channel Agile Digest, and over there you will be able to find the video that I am talking about, Understanding Kanban and Agile Framework. This is the video that I want you to go through if you are new to Kanban. That way you will be able to understand the basic concept of Kanban, and that will help you understand what we are configuring in this particular ALM tool, why we are doing it. And also, if you like to read about the basic concept of Kanban, visit the site http://agiledigest.com. I also have attached the link for both the YouTube video and this particular link on the description. So here you will be able to read all these topics, the basic concept, the real life comparison with Kanban, how the board you can configure and how it flows, the benefits of Kanban, what is the difference between Scrum and Kanban, and also you can see all this video along with the basic concept and different ALM tool, how we can configure it over there. You will be able to learn what are the different metrics we can get from Kanban and what exactly those metrics represent. Without wasting much your time, let's talk about the area that we'll cover in this particular video. This will be our agenda today. So within Jira, we'll first create a project, and then we will configure the workflow, and then we'll be prepare a Kanban board, and then we'll set up the work in progress limit. So what exactly these steps are, once you will get to know all the basic concepts of Kanban, you will be able to relate it, and I am assuming that you already have the idea what exactly the board will be and what the setup I am talking about on the WIP limits and the columns that we will be talking about. So then we will also prepare some strategic swim lanes, and then finally we'll show how we can run the Kanban board within Jira. Okay, let's begin and jump into Jira and see how we can configure. Okay, so this is Jira. First thing we'll do is we'll prepare a new project, and then we'll start configuring from there. So I can click on create project, and here you need to select this Kanban software development tool. So once I select this, I'll be able to select the default workflow. We'll later change this workflow. This is the default workflow it shows, and I'm just clicking on select, and I'm saying okay, let's prepare an AD Kanban, and this I cannot use, Kanban demo, that's my project name, and I'm making myself as the project lead here. I said submit. So it will take some time and prepare the board for you. So this is the default board you are able to see. So first thing, we need to understand what are the different columns. There are 4 areas that we'll be talking about. One will be configuring what are the columns we need. Then we'll be talking about the swim lanes that we'll be preparing. Then we'll be having WIP limits and the exit criteria or policies. So what are the columns we'll be needing for this video purpose? We'll be having the columns like, okay, so to do, we'll have one column as to do, we'll be having another column as analysis, and we'll be having dev in progress, then we'll be having QA in progress, that's a testing, and then we can have a UAT, and then finally we'll be having done. So to have that columns available for you, we need to first build up a workflow within Jira. So by default, if you don't have an admin rights, then probably you need to get in touch with your admin to get that implemented. Otherwise you can start working with this default board also. So for this tutorial purpose, I will be creating one workflow. So by going there, I will go on project. So I'll be creating a workflow for this particular project, and so this particular project name is Kanban_demo. Once I'll click it, I will see there is a options called workflow. Yeah, so I'll click on this workflows, and here you can see this is the default workflow. Now I actually need to add a new workflow. To add a new workflow, I click on this action and it will open up in a different view. So I need to create a new one. I'll need to see all the available workflows, where it will give me this screen where list of all workflows are available, and I will click on add workflow. It will ask for a name, so I will say Kanban_workflow. I'm not giving any description for this one. So this is the basic workflow structure it says. So we need to first create some status. So if you remember the columns that we have talked about, we need to add a status called to do. So if it is available, I will add it simply, and we'll map that one by one later. So after to do, I'll be having analysis, then I will be add that. So this is a new status, and this will be in progress. So whenever you create a status, there are three areas of your Kanban flow. One is to do, another is in progress, another is done. So I'm mapping this analysis part of in progress. So we have to do, we have analysis, then we'll be having, let's say, dev in progress. So in short, I can actually see DIP, that's my dev in progress, and in description I can say dev in progress, and this is actually an in progress state. So I have to do, I have in progress, then I will be having another test in progress, so I can say TIP, and I will create a new state. Description I will give test in progress, and this is again in progress state. So we have test in progress, and we can have another in progress that we showed UAT, and I am adding it, and this one I am saying again in progress, and description is I'm giving UAT, and then finally we'll be having one more state that's called done. So I'm adding this task add, and will be selecting, it's automatically added, didn't ask any question because this was the default state we had. So the very first thing we'll be having is we need to map our workflow. So we don't need this open. Okay, so in Jira workflow, what happened is the very first column, everything landed on one place that is already created. So this one open, in the sense you can actually rename it to instead of open, you can say as a backlog, or backlog will not do it here because I'll tell you how you will be able to manage the backlog. So what we'll be doing is this to do, I'm deleting it, this to do from here, and I will be renaming this open to do. So that will be your first column, and from to do you can have analysis, and for each transaction you need to give a name. So I am just saying to do to analysis. You can give any name based on your thing, and where do you want to see that you can actually define for which board you want to enable it. So that we'll be configuring later. So as of now I'm selecting none. We'll be enabling this for particular screen. We'll work on that later. Okay, now from analysis the next is development in progress. So I'm saying A to D. This is the name of the transition, so we need to give a name to each transition. So this is very important. You need to map that D to T. So this way we'll be completing all the transition, and let's see how does that goes. Yeah, we have completed this workflow. Now we need to save it. Right now it's in inactive state, so once we'll save it, we'll be able to activate this. Okay, so I'm going to back to project Kanban board and see if there is anything happened. So as of now, if you go back to your board, I think this was the Kanban board that we had created, and there is nothing here. So this is a part of the board that we created. So we'll go back to the administration section once again on the project side, and we'll select this Kanban board, and then I will select the workflows, and there is no workflows for this one. So I will be add workflow, add existing, and this is the workflow that we have created, Kanban workflow. If you remember, this is the workflow we have created. We'll click on next, and I am saying I need to make it available for all the issue types: story, subtask, task, epic, bugs, everywhere I will be making it enable for. Now I have enabled it. It is now currently in the draft state. It was earlier, we saw it was an inactive state. Okay, this workflow we have prepared, but we need to publish this. So I'll publish this workflow here, and after publishing, you need to associate the field. So it's now published. Your workflow has been published. You get that notification, and if you now let's see what it is showing on our board. So this is our Kanban board, and it's still not showing it. So because we need to configure the board now. So here, if you look into the columns, these are the columns that we have created, but those are not yet associated. So we need to associate these columns by making different columns we have. So how we'll be doing it, this backlog I am not changing it right now. I will be making the columns that we have discussed. Is first one we had is to do. Then we'll be actually not using this column anymore. I am removing all these columns from here, whatever is not relevant. Okay, so the first one will be having to do. Then there is another options that you can actually do by making a Kanban backlog for a separate area. So let's do this as to do. Then we'll be making this as analysis. Then I am saying this will be development in progress. Then done, I will be remain is at done. Then I will be adding another columns is test in progress, and then I'll add one more column as UAT. Now we need to map our columns that we had. So analysis will go to analysis column, DIP will go here. These are the status that we have created in the workflow. So I'm just moving them one by one. To do, I am moving it here, and UAT I am moving it here. So this is our Kanban board is now mapped and ready, and we'll see how does this looks like in our board. So we have all these columns available. So you see to do, analysis, and DIP, TIP. So those are development in progress and test in progress. This is a new columns. We need to change this to UAT, I guess. We didn't renamed it, so I need to rename it to UAT. So this was done. So far you got to know that we already have all the columns mapped, and right now you can start working with your Kanban board. Now for the WIP limit, we already have we can see these are the different WIP limits for all the columns. Will be set analysis. For an example, you can decide your WIP limit based on your team size, how much WIP limit you need to have. So I'm just giving 3 on everywhere, and testing I'm giving 2 WIP limit. And this UAT will not be putting any WIP limit, because we already learned that UAT is a kind of columns where it goes beyond control column, where you will not be able to control the stories that's currently part of UAT, because many time the client is busy working with other priorities, and your story will keep stucking there and become a bottleneck if you do a WIP limit on UAT. And so that's why we are just having the WIP limit for analysis, DIP and TIP. So that's we are done with this column. Now we see how we will be able to do it. So as of now we don't have any stories, so we need to create some stories here. So by default you can create one issues, and I'm saying story, and summary is US user story 1. Let's see how does and where it gets appeared. Priority, it's medium. I'm just creating it for understanding where does that come. So we have one user story over here, and we actually don't have anything in backlog. So I am not able to see the backlog. That will tell you how you can have the backlog ready and keep on working on that backlog. So again I will be creating one more story, and I'm saying user story 2. It will give it a name. I am not giving any details as of now. I'm quickly creating these stories, and let's see how does that go. So what happen is, if your work in progress limit is 3, if I am working on them, so it will be remain green. But if any time if you have more than 3 on this column, it will become turn red. It will not stop you to add any stories on that particular column, but it will highlight you by turning it as red. So let's try that and see how does that work. So I'm saying this is another user story 4 I'm creating, that's become in to do. Once I'll move it here, if you remember we have a limit of 4, so it will show you on red highlight. So this area is now red. Okay, so this is how the work in progress work. So you is suggested that you should not bring more than 3 or whatever the max limit you have. So you'll be moving, if you move it here, then it will be become again normal. So it will give you highlights that this particular story is having a issue. Now another area that we'll be talking about is different swim lanes. Once you actually talk about creating the strategy of every day at the time of stand up, which story you will be bringing from the backlog or from to do, it's based on which swim lane it belongs to. So by default, if you look into board configuration section, there is a section called swim lanes. In this swim lanes, it's have a default swim lanes defined. If any in time the priority equal to highest, it will create an expedite swim lane. So let's try that and see how that work. So here if I actually select KN3, the instead of medium I say okay, let's make the priority as highest. So the moment you will do it, the next time once you will refresh it, this story will be on a expedite lane. But as you know, there may be other strategical lane can be possible. For an example, if we talk about what are the different columns we can have, let's see at what we learned from our previous video. So we here we talked about the columns. Now the strategical swim lanes, what we can have is we can have one expedite, we can have one time bound. Time bound, you know, if there is any stories that have a defined deadline, by that date it has to be complete, we put all those stories over there. Now if we want any intangible stories, those are actually not a real-time value additions or just in time value addition stories, but maybe some kind of server migration or technical changes that you do for a future benefit, we may use all those stories under intangible, and you can have a normal bound of this. So this is something else. So what we can do is to implement that, if you really need that, you need to have a custom field. So in Jira, we'll be creating one custom field for this particular screen, and we'll be seeing, let's see how does that work to make this strategical swim lanes. Okay, so this is where you need to go to change to create a new custom field. We'll go to projects, and within this area you will be able to see your project. You click that and you see there is a fields area. So once you click that, you will be able to see all these default fields that you have, and none of them you can use. So you will be click on editing this fields area. So once you will click that, you will be able to see this field section where the custom fields is option is there, and then you will click add custom field. So what kind of field you need, I will be having a drop down list, and this is one of your drop down list that we can have, and I will select that list, and next I am saying swim lanes, name of the columns, and the options I can have. For an example, normal I am not adding it, that will go as an other area. I will be making expedited, I will say add, and I will be saying another one is time bound, add, and then I'll be having another one is intangible. And for default, let's have one for a normal, that will be adding this normal will be make as different. So I am creating this field, so we'll be doing the re-index later. So now it asking what are the screens you want to enable it for. So I am saying let's enable it for everyone. I need to find out what is the screen I had created. I had not created any screen, so I am just, for this tutorial section, I am enabling it for all. I am saying buy. Now once you have created, your custom field will be appearing here. So this is the swim lanes that we have. So you can actually edit it. You can add configure, and in configure you can give edit a default value. So here you will give a default value as normal, and that's set as set default. So your this field is now available, but if you go back to your board, you'll not be able to see that fields available by default for your screen. So this is one user story. So to get that field enable, you need to configure once again, and issue detail view, you can see that field is not there. So you need to add that field. So in general area, you can have that field available. So what you want to add, field name, and this is the swim lanes, and I say add. So you have added that swim lanes at the top. Now if you go back to your board, you will be able to see that. So this is instead of priority, I will be now concentrating on swim lanes. The first one I am saying let's have, this is an expedite, and this one let's have it as time bound, and rest these two will be normal. So normal in the sense the field was created after creation of this story, so the default is not taken up, it's on a null value. So I'll be marking it as normal, and we'll see how does we can make the swim lanes, and these are two normal. If you now create any new user story, if you create let's say US5, by default that will be goes on normal. So this is US5 and default it took as normal. Now we need to change the swim lanes based on this swim lanes column, and we'll be go to configure, and here you have a swim lanes. We'll be having this query, and I'm saying this is expedited, where the query will be swim lanes is equal to it will pop up expedited. I am not giving any description to here, so this is this one. I am deleting this query because I don't need it anymore. Then I'll be having a time bound, and here I'll be giving swim lanes is equal to time bound add, and I'll be having time bound and what was intangible. Swim lanes equal to intangible added. So there are 3 swim lanes I have added, and everything else will go on the default swim lanes. Let's go back to our board and see how does it looks like. So I need to refresh that, otherwise it will not come up. Okay, none of them actually got saved. I don't know why. So what I'll be doing is I'll making one as expedited, and I'll mark this as checked. This was, I think I missed to check that, mark that checkbox. Now I have marked this one is expedited. Everything is coming on 1 because all these swim lanes were by default none. So if I refresh it now, this is on expedite lane. This story I'll be making it as time bound, and this story also I'm making it as time bound. There are 2 story I have marked it, and this I think these 2 are time bound now, and this one is expedite. So if you want to change the sequence of these columns, you can do it on that query area where you have configured. Okay, there are one more limitations here. We talked about exit criteria or policies in Jira, but as of now there is no places where I can update the exit criteria for Jira. You can still have the exit criteria or the policies or exit agreement written somewhere, and when you are working on that, you can follow this particular board, keeping that exit criteria somewhere outside your this Kanban board. You can configure this board by giving different colors for different criteria in case there is blocked or something, and you can have that working on your way. So let's see, is there what else we can configure within in this board area. So columns we already have created, and now we already have created the swim lanes. You can actually have card colors based on different criteria, so you can have queries or priorities, that way you can create your card color. Then a card layout, if you want to add any field, you can add that field over here, whom it is assigned to, or what is the due date. If you are having a time bound, you can show that due date on that card. Working days, that's okay, how the board will be calculating all the graphics and metrics that you can configure, and what are the non-working day. Issue detail view, you can actually configure on the right side what are the details views you want to look into. Okay, so okay, this is a little older version of Jira, because there is one options you can actually enable on your latest cloud versions of Jira, that is you can have enable that backlog columns by default. So what that will be doing is, if you enable that, in you will see another icon over here that is for backlog, and to get that enable you need to go to configure, and in your column section you will be seeing one additional columns there, hard coded columns. So you just need to move the backlog status to there. So if you do that, you will be able to see another icons on top of this Kanban board, and where you click, everything will be on your backlog area. So without the board view, you can see that backlog. Now over there, if you have worked on Scrum, you already have saw there is a one options on the backlog, and above there is a sprint. So in that area you will be able to see the backlog, all the stories, and at the top these to do sections will be there. So whatever you are moving it to do, that will start appearing on this particular board. So this is how you need to how you will be able to actually create your Kanban board, configured your swim lanes. You will be working on the different columns that you want to, and that way you will be able to customize. I think this was helped you on configuring the Kanban board in Jira. If there is anything else that you want to talk about, or if you have any questions, any doubt, feel free to write a comment on the website you saw or just below this YouTube video. And I will be coming up with many more videos like this. Till the next video, thank you, bye bye.